we can run the football on Missouri, then I feel like that we'll have the advantage. Their defense has had some suspect circumstances. They've won games, but they haven't beaten a powerhouse team yet. So, but I talked to a former Georgia player who lives in Columbia. He said they're all jacked up about the improvement. They've won 5 games. What are they, 5-3? So anyway, having lost only 3 games, they beat Georgia. That would certainly heighten their bowl prospects. And Georgia's incentive is to win the game, not just the normal reasons, but a really kick-up opportunity comes for a New Year's Day bowl game, because even I, who know not to take any team for granted, believes we could probably handle Vandy the following week.
Yeah, I'll go ahead and go out on a limb on that one.
Yeah. As long as it's not a debate, y'all should be all right.
Yeah. But hey, Jake Crane, you're on here with us, host of the J-Boy podcast down in Tupelo, and you're on here with Lauren Smith. I know you've got some questions, then we'll go to you, Jimmy.
Yeah, well, Lauren, I'm looking at this game, and I think Eli Drinkwitz is one of the guys that has a legitimate chance to win SEC Coach of the Year, obviously with Nick Saban and Sam Pittman. But, when you look at this Missouri team, I think it's going to come down to how well Nick Bolton plays on defense for them to be able to stay in it, because Georgia does have an advantage up front. And as well as I do, Georgia's going to try and establish the run, build the pass off that, try and get some matchups that they like, and throw some home runs to Pickens and some other guys. But my question to you is, outside of the matchup of Georgia on offense and Missouri on defense, when you look at the other side of the coin and you look at Connor Bazelak and the Missouri offense and what Eli does with all the motions, all the formations, the shifts and the sets, what is the main thing that concerns you about that offense just going in this game?
Well, they obviously have a lot of motion and a lot of they do a lot of things, multiple sets, and they just have played well together, and they've got momentum, and now they've got great confidence that they can compete with anybody. So that puts them in a position to where their attitude is just right. Now, usually when you win a game like they won against Arkansas last week, it takes a lot out of you. And I can remember General Nealon at Tennessee's philosophy always was, you never play 2 tough teams back to back, and he was able to mastermind that kind of schedule in his day. You can't do that now. So if they're a little bit off, but I think they would counter with the fact that we're playing at home and the familiar surroundings, and that ought to help us. Early kickoff, I don't know how it affects teams. I've heard people say it affects the traveling team less because you're in a traveling mode. But the home team's used to having a great opportunity to be in familiar surroundings and have a little bit of a routine that they're familiar with. So I don't really know, but all I know is that we're in a position now to finish with a strong record, and by winning out, and then of course getting a New Year's Day bowl game is a great incentive. And so I think this Georgia team will play well. Just hope the weather doesn't change on us.
Yeah, I do too. I think Georgia's got so much talent, and the offensive line, it's going to get better just by the sheer fact that you've got people like Broderick Jones on there that are not starting yet out of Lithonia. He's just indicative of the overall talent. And then now you got the quarterback situation that looks pretty bright. Jimmy Hodge, you're up in Chicago. Come on in with Lauren Smith of the Georgia football broadcast crew, and probably the man who knows more about the history of SEC and Southern football than anybody in America.
Yeah, Lauren, you mentioned the game time. You'd be looking at about a wind chill of 50% chance of rain. So I don't think it's going to be anything that I think is going to affect your offense at all. And, nowadays, over the years, all that's changed. During rainy conditions, you never knew if the ball would be wet, dry. Nowadays, these ball boys have 2-3 balls at the ready, and as soon as the previous play's completed, if it's raining, you're going to have a dry one ready to go right away. I don't know back, when you were you were a student there at Georgia during the Tarkenton and Pat Dye years. It was you had that type of room service as far as making sure you had a good ball. But I wanted to ask you about the depth on defense, because I thought in that Georgia game that really put a exclamation point on just the injury issues that really piled up against the Dogs, and it really came to fruition against Florida, because in this league it's really physical, and I know you've had about a 2-week break. So how are the Dogs from a health standpoint on the defensive side of the ball? Because Missouri's got some nice offensive weapons with the redshirt freshman quarterback Basilak, and then Roundtree's a really good running back.
Well, we're getting some back, I understand. Some guys that haven't been playing. Richard LeCounte, I don't know. But I think we're in pretty good health. I think the most important thing is attitude, not worrying about the elements. Just go play football, and you got an opponent who's feisty and who's improved. So just take care of business, because you want to have a strong finish and a good rating at the end of the season, plus getting into that New Year's Day Bowl. That's the big incentive.
Well, looking around, George Pickens is a super talented wide receiver. How healthy is he? And talk about Zamir White and the Georgia running game. Again, we go back to that Florida game. It was really strange. I think Georgia only had 6 carries, but on the first play, he goes 75 yards for a touchdown. What do you think is going on with Todd Monken, first-year offensive coordinator at Georgia? Do you think maybe he's just trying to adjust to this just ridiculous amount of talent that he has?
Well, he and Kirby decided way back a year ago now, when they were getting together, that they would try to go to the mobile quarterback, and the kid from Wake Forest who abandoned ship, seemed to be perfect for the offense, got a lot of high marks, and then they suddenly he just at the last minute pulls the plug, so you can't change your offense. And then there was some doubt about JT Daniels' knee, but they did a good job of getting Stetson Bennett ready, and he's played well. He just got that unfortunate AC sprain in the Florida game, so we're healthier than we've been, and I feel like the team is ready to give a good account of itself. So if you play well, even though you're on the road, you got a chance to win. If and our offensive line can be the difference. It might not be, but it can be.
Well, I expect them to. Lauren Smith, I know, and I want to respect your time. You've got to get on a plane and go out to Columbia. Join us again next week, Friday or Saturday, whatever works best for you. But I can tell you this, man, it's always great to have you on. You exude confidence like a battlefield commander with a lot of experience. But I hope you are thinking about your next book. Maybe you're going to write is about the SEC in this year of the China virus. And I got to tell you, we have definitely hunkered down as a league, and I think it's incredible. And when you're ready, you and Herschel and Coach Dooley on here together, y'all are 3 of the greatest voices for college football and what's right. But have a safe flight, and we'll talk to you next week.
Yeah, I got an important assignment. I got to take these wonderful pilots to dinner, so I'll see you next week.
Man, look, have fun, and we want to talk more about the Masters. And this spring, we're going to look forward to having you on there. And I know they can't, but I'm looking forward for crowds to be back there and reading your next book. But have a great weekend, sir.
All right. Well, thanks so much, Rob.
You bet. All right. Hey, that is Lauren Smith, longtime sideline reporter and now member of, good gosh, you talk about a man that knows the history of Southern football, Georgia football and all. Lauren Smith is the tip of the spear. Hey, Jake Crane is with us down in Tupelo. And those of you that go on the podcast, man, when you're driving, you're traveling, you're out on your sailboat down in the Caymans floating around, check out the J-Boy podcast. And I don't really need to say a whole lot about it because the J-Boy, Jake Crane, is here with us. He has forgotten more than 99.9% of us know about football, as has Jimmy Hodge up in Chicago. J-Boy podcast is already, I believe, #1 in the country. He works harder than a dozen Mennonite farmers in disaster relief to put out great information, gets great guests, always does. Bringing Jimmy Hodge on the show is like taking Lynn Wood to trial with you, a great attorney. So, hey, look, let's do this. We're going to be joined in just a few minutes by George Gully, one of our sponsors from Jim Karras Chevrolet, and also Rodney Orr will be joining us from Tider Insider down in Tuscaloosa. Always great to hear from Rodney. He is at the, again, the tip of the spear with what's going on down there with the Crimson Tide. And guys, look, you know, you can say what you want about Nick Saban. You may like him, you may not. You may not like him probably because he beats your team every year. If you're a Tennessee fan, you're probably tired of it. 14 in a row. Crazy. But Rodney, great information. And Jake, you did a podcast with him recently. He's something special, isn't he?
Oh yeah, Rodney's the man. We had a great time talking.
Yeah, he always is. Jimmy, interesting talking with Lawrence Smith just now, and you know he's getting on that plane to fly out to Columbia. The weather, again, I'm sitting here looking. I'm at the Cherry Farm, looking out what we call the Sunset Lounge. It's Jake, when you were here a couple of months ago, you're not going to recognize all the work we've done, and I personally have, I think, 65 mounts. I counted. My wife Audrey is like, please take some of them to live over at the Cherry Farm. And I mean, there are more, you know, ducks and wild animals on the wall in here right now. It's crazy. But what's really fun is it's December 12th. We still got regular season football going. And both of y'all, I'm going to start, you know, while we're, you know, Rodney Orr will be calling in just a minute. We had to let Lawrence Smith go a few minutes early because he literally was on the tarmac there in Athens waiting for the plane to take him out to Columbia. But Jake, these games tomorrow, you know, again, we just talked about Missouri and Georgia. Missouri's won 5 of the last 6. What is it about Eli Drinkowitz? 1 year at App State, he goes 12-1, and he's having success. Granted, they hadn't beat a top-level team. Georgia is the 16-point, 275-pound, 6-year-old buck that they won, isn't it?
Oh yeah, I mean this would definitely be a signature win, and there's a few things that go into it. Eli, it's his first year in the league, and it's his system's first year on the field, and you got a ton of film on guys, and you kind of get an idea of what they do. But until you actually, you know, play call against them, and you're in the game, and you kind of get the natural tendency of what they do in this league, because sometimes, you know, philosophies really don't shift, but they'll add some things schematically. But this is huge for them. Now, again, like I said earlier, up front it's going to be a battle for them. And like I said, Nick Bolton on the defensive side is going to have to be everywhere, which he will be. I think he's one of the best defensive players in the country. But this would be a statement win. Eli's going to win at Missouri. You know, it's all he's done. I think he's 17-4 as a head coach. Even though his career again is only 21 games old. I love what he does from a motion standpoint. I kind of hit on that earlier. He never gets himself really cornered. He typically has a pretty balanced attack, and a lot of his throws in his passing game, it's easy reads for the quarterback. A lot of them are short. Then they'll take their shot. Not a ton in the intermediate passing game. I've seen a little more this year than what he did at App State last year, but you can see him kind of evolving. And the difference in Eli Drinkowitz and some coaches that have success and coaches that don't have success will be fine, because offensively, I don't think, and I think Gus Malzahn's a great example of this. You get stuck, you know, in one way, and you think this one way is going to work, and you sprinkle a little bit on that one way, and after, you know, 8 years, people got the book on you. I think Eli's smart enough to keep evolving, and when you're able to do the things from a motion standpoint, out of different personnels, out of different formations, out of different sets, then you can keep people on their toes. And that's why whenever you watch Missouri, you always feel like somebody's always open in the flat, or the arrow's always there, or sticks always there to the boundary, just because they do so much. So I really think Eli's going to be a good one.
Yeah, I do too. Real quick, Rodney Orr has joined us. And before we go to Rodney, George Gully's tied up with got another customer in the office wanting to buy a truck. Jim Karras Chevrolet, sponsor of ours, 2000 Covington Pike in Memphis. Look, they're going to be there till 6:30 or 7 tonight, all day tomorrow, Saturday morning, 8 a.m. They're out there bright and early, all day working. They've got Chevrolet, Subaru, Nissan. The whole sales team will be there. Of course, George Gully, 22 years, the sales manager at Jim Karras Chevrolet. you need to check out the 21 Silverado Trail Boss pickup truck. That is the great for off-road farming. One of our farmers in the Cherry Farm, who's a member of the club, they farm about 7,000 acres over here, drives the Trail Boss. He bought from George Gully, and they've got the 21 Tahoes, the 21 Suburbans are in. Ask about the Apple Technology Packs. These packages are incredible. You are hands-free no matter where you are. You can just say, text Rodney or Tyler Insider, and it'll say, texting the smartest man in the world. Stand by. And, hey, look, I'm telling you what, we're out there a lot. George Gully, 22 years, over 4,000 happy customers. You got to love that. The Karras family, nearly 70 years in the car and truck business. We are lucky to have them as a sponsor. Check them out on our website at the Jim Karras Chevrolet website, and the hyperlink is on our website at sidelines.live. And George will be trying to call in the second hour, but check them out. They're going to be there all night tonight, all day tomorrow, and they've got a lot going on, and they're easy to work with. Jim Karras Chevrolet. Rodney Orr, Tyler Insider. Hey, the Crimson Tide and the Razorbacks. The Razorbacks have it's a different scenario. Last year they weren't really competitive. They were so bad. They kind of like they woke up in the morning and just said, I'm going back to sleep. This year they're playing a full 60. Nick Saban's not going to take the day off. Let's talk about this matchup tomorrow between one of the up-and-coming programs, the Fighting Pittmans is what I call them, Arkansas Razorbacks and the Alabama Crimson Tide tomorrow.
Yeah, really, Sam Pittman's got them playing, even though they're 3-6, they're playing much harder, as you would say, as you said, tougher. They're in a lot of these games. They're competing. They're really competing. And I think that's the one thing that probably Sam Pittman, more than anything else, out of this first season was hoping to see. I mean, so that's got to be really encouraging for them. Like you said, they kind of laid down last year, but this year they're really competing. And, they've lost their last 3 games. They obviously lost to Missouri, a heartbreaker last week when they went up with about a minute and a half left, 48-47, and then got beat there at the buzzer on a field goal, 50-48. They lost LSU by 3 at home, and then they lost a week before that to Florida. Got handled pretty well, 63, I think it was to 35 or something like that down in Gainesville. So, but they are playing better. So this is a game that I think is Alabama. You want to go in there. You want to play well. You want to play solid. You do not want to be sloppy. You want to get this game over with, and you want to be healthy heading into the SEC championship game the following weekend.
Yeah, Jake Crane down in Tupelo and Jimmy Hodge in Chicago. Let's go first. Jake Crane, you've got Rodney Orr here. And again, this is a big matchup. Nobody's going to take anybody lightly, especially Nick Saban. He'll cover all the bases. What does Arkansas need to do to keep this game close enough to have a chance? And I'm kind of going in Dumb and Dumber when Lloyd Christmas asked that girl, 1 in a million. So you're saying there's a chance, but Jake, go ahead.
Yeah. Well, it's where
you don't look like Lloyd Christmas, though.
Like the women of Capistrano. So, but no, I look at this game. I think it's not really what Arkansas can do. It's what Alabama has to do. I think Alabama would have to turn the ball over 3 times. I think Arkansas would have to have a special teams play. And, I mean, just from a depth standpoint, I don't know if I'm Alabama, I think you're going to see a lot of running the ball, to be honest with you. I think Alabama's going to try and run the ball, get up, run the clock. I wouldn't be shocked if you didn't see Devontae Smith get the normal amount of targets that he gets. Not that you take anybody lightly, but when you're Alabama and you have so many weapons, I think they may, once they get up, really start working on their left hand, may see a lot of Robinson, see some of the backup guys, maybe even see Bryce Young in there. But again, I just don't think Arkansas is ready to compete at this level. 60 minutes with Alabama with the team they have this year that's as elite as they are. The defense is starting to figure it out. It's starting to become kind of second nature to them, and those young guys are starting to be able to play instead of just thinking and then playing, and now they could just be athletic and fast. And I just don't see, anybody can win. It's college football. We know it happens, but Alabama would have to play very, very poorly. Arkansas would have to capitalize on those mistakes nearly every time. And that's even to really have a chance to win this game. And that's not a knock against Arkansas, but it's a whole lot different being in the game against Missouri than it is being in the game against Alabama, because up front, Alabama and Texas A&M do a really good job of communicating. They got great personnel. The scheme's really good. But at the end of the day, the players are just better than the ones on the other side of the ball.
I agree with that. Rodney Orr, again, look at this season. So many people, we talked about this, Jimmy Hodge, and we had Lauren Smith on from the Georgia broadcast crew at the beginning. He's getting on a plane to go out to Columbia. And, of course, Jake Crane. We were talking about the Big Ten. Back in the summer, they were smarter than everybody. You know that. I mean, because they're north of the Mason-Dixon line. They know more than us. And they have people like, Christine Brennan from USA Today, who said this is the darkest day in Big Ten history. And obviously she didn't know about that guy up at Michigan State, the coach that was such a horrible story. And then there are other things, but look, not to pick on the Big Ten, but you know what? Hey, don't preach to us. We don't want to hear it. Okay. We're the South. You're the upper Midwest. The Big Ten, you know what? We stack up national championships down here like cordwood. Okay. You win them every now and then. Okay. So shut up. Kevin Warren, you have about as much business being Big Ten commissioner as I do trying out for the Lakers. Okay. You know what? It's ridiculous, but, I want to hear from you. I want to hear from you what you think about what the Big Ten did to protect Ohio State.
Well, I mean, first of all, they weren't going to play. Then they are going to play, and then they're going to play this abbreviated schedule. And they had this rule that you had to play a minimum of 6 games to get into the championship game. And then they saw that wasn't going to work to their favor, so they changed the rules. So really just kind of, to me, and I understand, listen, to me, I would have done it this way probably. I would have said, right now as we head into the season with so many uncertainties, a preliminary goal is for every team to play 6 games to be eligible for the championship game. Okay, but we're going to stay. We're not going to. We don't want to change the rules in the middle of the whole deal. So we're going to try to be flexible with that, depending on the circumstances. You knew the circumstances could create some chaos. So I think that was poorly done. It's been poorly handled from the very beginning. So now they've changed the rules, and they're going to let Ohio State in, I guess, with 5 games into the championship game. And to me, in short, I'm kind of like Dabo here. It's not that I don't think maybe Ohio State's one of the top 4 teams, but I see all these teams in the SEC. They're playing 10, 11 games, in some circumstances, and all these other conferences are playing their schedule out. And now, Ohio State wants to get in with playing 4, 5, 6 games, maybe 6 with the championship game. It'd be 6, I think. So, I mean, to me, it's just. Again, it's unfortunate because I really do believe Ohio State probably is one of the top 4 teams. But, there again, I mean, look, Texas A&M's played out of schedule. Florida's played out of schedule. All these other teams that have played out schedules that are borderline playoff teams. So, I don't know how you guys feel about it. But, yeah, I'm sympathetic to Ohio State because I do think they're one of those teams. But at the same time, I mean, man, they didn't even play a schedule.
No, they didn't. And I do respect Ohio because it was Ohio State, Iowa, and Nebraska that really pushed the hardest to make sure that the Big Ten would play college football. Jimmy Hodge, you're up in Chicago in the PRI, the People's Republic of Illinois. Come on in. Is it okay for you to talk out of state?
I'm not sure. I'll let you know in an hour or so.
Suddenly Jimmy's phone lines don't work. Where's Jimmy?
Yeah, you just disappear.
Comrade, you can speak for 10 minutes, huh?
Yeah. Well, this entire Big Ten fiasco just started with, I think, the arrogance and the incompetence of not only Kevin Warren, but their university presidents. They one day after the Ivy League announced they weren't going to play football this fall, we were talking about it earlier. The Big Ten tried to put themselves on the academic level with the Ivy League by saying, well, we're not going to play this fall either. When they could have easily waited 2 or 3 weeks to make a call on that. And then after they made this foolhardy decision to do that, you had the protest from the parents of multiple Big Ten schools outside the Big Ten corporate offices. And so Warren responded to that by saying, not only are we not going to play football this fall, it's the discussion is over. It's non-negotiable. And then another 3 weeks later, we're now we're going to play after all. And so this is the fitting conclusion to what's been an absolute PR disaster, changing the rules to make sure Ohio State gets in. And, nobody argues that Ohio State is the best team in that conference, but they also made these rules saying that you had to play 6 games to be in the conference championship game. And Ohio State themselves admitted 2 weeks ago when Ryan Day caught the virus that we could have played at Illinois, but we just didn't think it was the right thing to do. Well, they made that decision on their own, and then they get caught in a bind when the next week Maryland can't play them because of the positive virus tests that they've had. So really, the Big Ten has been a national laughingstock this year. They have already always promoted themselves as the absolute elite conference on how they handle things. Their members are always in concert, with when a difficult decision was made. And this year, all that's been thrown out the window. Nebraska let it be known that they were going to try to schedule games on their own after the announcement had been made. And then there were rumors this week and it was confirmed yesterday, that Ohio State was considering playing Ohio University tomorrow, and just to get a game in, and that would have thrown out the window their ironclad determination to play a conference-only schedule. So it's just been a nightmare for them. But that being said, without question, Ohio State's the best team in that conference. But with that being said, they are nowhere close to as good as they were last year on the defensive side of the ball. You had 2 players that were with 2 of the top 4 players drafted last year. They lost on the defensive side of the ball, and just overall, with Jeff Hafley taking the head job at Boston College, just from a scheme standpoint. And the way they play, they're just nowhere close to as efficient as they were last year. So I'd like to see them get that 4 spot and have Alabama settle a score with them, because it's way overdue. But with that being said, I think if Clemson and Notre Dame, if that turns out to be a close game and Clemson wins, I don't think the committee is going to be in any kind of mood to have Clemson and Notre Dame play for a third time, because you certainly wouldn't move Ohio State normally above the number 4 spot. And again, the committee, I just don't think they want to be in a mess where they have Clemson and Notre Dame playing again. So it's just a complete mess. And again, we can thank the Big Ten for this.
Yeah, Big Ten, again, always likes to think that they know more than we do. And again, I think that's just wonderful. But, you think about the Big Ten, that league started in 1896. And up until really I think the man, and I want your thought on this, Rodney, and everyone else, the man who changed the Big Ten more than anyone else was Barry Alvarez when he came over from Notre Dame and started taking football seriously at Wisconsin. Because those people up there, they're a different crowd, but they got excited about college football at Wisconsin. and they were weirder than a bunch of football bats for a long time up there. Okay. And now Wisconsin, every year, they're going to be good. I mean, Brent Bielema came down here and tried to take a square block and put it through a round hole at Arkansas. He wouldn't, adapt to the offenses in the SEC. But what's your thoughts on that, Rodney?
Okay, you're asking me what's my thoughts on Wisconsin?
Just about the Big Ten and just how that league is. What I'm saying is Michigan and Ohio State for about 75-80% of the time until Alvarez did that, they had nobody to compete with, whereas Alabama, look, I'm saying this as an Auburn grad, but you got to be honest, okay? Alabama has had to compete. Think about it. Of the top 12 winningest programs in the history of college football, 5 of them are in the top 12 all time. I know the Big Ten has some because they've added Nebraska, they've added Ohio State, but really, they've added Nebraska and they've added Penn State. But look, let's face it, Alabama, nobody has had to deal with more than the top teams in the SEC. And you don't have that in other conferences in America. Even with Wisconsin, the Big Ten still isn't as competitive as the SEC.
Yeah, not even close. Not even close. I mean, what we've called them for years, the Big Two. For many years we did, and it changed a little bit, like you said. Wisconsin started really emerging, and but for years it was basically almost like a one-game season for both Michigan and Ohio State, as you guys know. But it obviously it's changed a little bit, but still, and Indiana's gotten a little better. That's an interesting program actually, with Tom Allen and what he's doing there with that program. And you think about this too. He might be a real interesting guy to watch. You guys may know more about him than I do, but I know he's doing an excellent job there at Indiana. And he had those 2 strength and conditioning program director, David Ballou, and then, of course, the Dr. Matt Ray in charge of the director of their speed enhancement program and their scientific program that they have there with their strength and conditioning. And, he's obviously doing some really good things up there. So he may be a guy to really keep an eye on in the future as a head coach and see how he kind of develops. But no, I'm with you. I'm with you all the way, Rob. I mean, I think what Jimmy was trying to say in a nice way without saying it was that the Big Ten's a farce. I mean, and it really is. Just the hypocritical, the hypocrisy of, we're just not going to play. We're better than everybody else. And like you said, Rob, smarter than everybody. I'm not just trying to.
Oh, go ahead.
Yeah, sure, go ahead.
No, what I was just going to say, to me, I mean, for no longer, never again can the Big Ten say the SEC only cares about football or that's the only thing. They can't say that anymore. After doing this, because y'all know, we all heard it. Oh, well, why is the SEC get so good? Because all they do is care about football. That's it. They don't care about anything. You can't say that anymore because what's going on. And again, look, I'm all for conferences doing what's best for the conference. That's the Big Ten doing what's best for the conference. And to be honest with you, that's not the problem to me. And it's not Ohio State's fault. I don't blame Ohio State. The problem is that you came out all high and mighty early, like you were better than everybody else. And then it backfired on you. You changed your mind. And now you're having to show your true cards because it's the plan, because it has to be the plan. And you're, a little bit embarrassed, and you probably have to take 5. You need to just maybe sit this next one out. So never again can the Big Ten ever say that the SEC is better because all they do is care about football and they do stuff just to help the SEC. They don't care about everybody else. That myth is dead. And if anybody brings it up, they can never say it again, in my opinion.
Great points. How can anybody argue with you? Rodney, look, we're about out of time. And I just want to say this, and hopefully, hey, if you want to join us again tomorrow morning, Rodney, we always love having you on the Saturday Roundtable. We're on 8 to 10 on Sports 56, WHBQ, 96.1 and 98.5 FM, plus sidelines.live all over the world on the internet. And those of you expats and military listening around the world, and I get the texts and the emails and the messages, thank you. Thank you for your service. And one thing you need to know, if you got something you want us to talk about, let us know. We'll bring on the people that can do it. But Rodney, how can people follow you on Tider Insider, the source for Alabama Crimson Tide sports, and also great forums you got to love the discussions because college football, it's the 24/7 elixir we all love.
Right. It's titerinsider.com. It's only $48 a year. You can get instant access with your credit card if you prefer. There's an address there to send a check, and that that does give y'all excuse me. That does give y'all our premium information, but also our all sports forum where there is a constant flow of exchange, information, all of those things relating to Alabama, but also college football in general, right there at titerinsider.com.
Well, Rodney, listen, it is great having you on this show. You bring so much energy, but you bring real live information. It's great. And every Alabama fan, I've got a lot of friends that are Alabama fans. They all subscribe to Tider Insider. But what I tell them to do is for Christmas, hey, you know what? Give a subscription to Tider Insider to a friend, and they'll become a better friend. Thank you, and have a great day. Call us in tomorrow on the show, Rodney, okay?
I will do, Rob. Thanks, you and Jake and Jimmy. Y'all have a great night.
You do too.
You too,
Thanks so
Rob.
much.
Yeah, you too, Rob.
Hey, we're going to be joined in just a minute by another one of our sponsors that we're blessed to have is Justin Wynn from Red River Ford Toyota over in Wynn, Arkansas. And look, man, I'm going to tell you what, they are growing. They bought the dealership back October 5th, and I've got a lot of my friends that are going over there. Anybody listening, if you're looking for a Ford or a Toyota or a new or used truck, you need to give us a call and, get over there to Red River Ford Toyota in Wynn, Arkansas. And look, Jason Caldwell is on with us now. And inside the Auburn Tigers, Jason, no drama at all. It's December. Gus Malzahn, loved by the masses. No controversy. Nobody calling for anything. Hey, look, at least we can all say this. We're not having to deal with the psychological trauma of that meltdown in the Auburn High School State Championship game. But hey, Jason, hang on. We're gonna break. I'm gonna be right back in. Before we go to Jason Caldwell of Inside the Auburn Tigers, we've got one of our sponsors on the line, Justin Wynn, General Manager, Red River Ford Toyota in Wynn, Arkansas. And Justin, we hunted this morning, been working all day. Now we're doing Sidelines all over the world on the Sidelines.live Friday podcast. I'm looking at Crowley's Ridge. It's getting cold. It's duck season. It's hunting season. And every day I've got friends of mine saying, hey, I went over to Red River Ford Toyota. I met with Justin Wynn. I talked to Rusty Howard. I talked to Nate. They love it. Tell us what's going on over there, and we'll see you here in about 5:45, 6 o'clock tonight.
You named it, brother. It's duck season. I'm going to go over to Coca-Cola Woods with our good friend John.
I knew you were going to be going. You lucky.
Yeah, I'm going to go over and hang out with him next week and see if we can't bust some ducks, too. But in the meantime, we've got deals going on here at the dealership. I've got lots of vehicles in stock. I've got a great selection of pre-owned. Let me tell you something special I'm doing right now. Any 2020 Toyota that I have in stock, I'm going to make you a great deal on it. I'll deliver it and put it in your driveway. I'll make whatever I can make happen for you, and I'm going to pay your sales tax.
Wow. Hey, sign me up. Man, that is.
How much easier can it be?
I mean, can you breathe for them? That is incredible. Hey, look, tell us. I know you all work harder than anybody. A dozen Mennonite farmers don't have a thing on you. You'll be there tonight. I like that motto. We're here till the last sale is done, and you'll be there all day tomorrow on Saturday. People can actually get the process started of applying for the car or whatever they got to do online before they get there, and that makes it a lot easier. But when you get there, your staff is great. They're like a team. When you bring somebody in, everybody's ready to go and they know their jobs and they love their jobs. And you're right. Last week you talked about your service department. Everybody in there, it's true, man. Wynn is the city with a smile.
I tell you, they all know their role and they know what I expect. And there's nothing less than phenomenal customer service. And they portray it every single day. I cannot brag enough about my team of people I have here. They do an excellent job. The customers all seem to love them. If you don't get treated right, if you don't feel right being here, you find me personally and we'll make it happen.
Hey, you know one thing, John Dobbs Jr. is part of the Red River Auto Group ownership group from Memphis. The Dobbs family is known throughout Memphis and the Mid-South a long time in the car and truck business. John knows what it's all about. It's about relationships. And again, Justin, on a daily basis, I just had Michael Jordan, not the Michael Jordan, but the other Michael Jordan, who works with me at Duncan Williams, talking about he's going to get his next vehicle. He goes, man, I'm going by there. I saw what I liked last night, and the love affair has started. The marriage will come soon. Listen, check out what they've got going on. Red River Ford Toyota. And Justin, you're driving a great looking truck, that Toyota Tundra, fully loaded, ready for off-road. They've got Toyota, Ford, everything you're looking for. And the big debate is which one to get, the Ford or the Toyota, but you can help them with that, can't you?
We can. We can set them side by side, show you the differences, show you the features and benefits of both, and then you can make the decision what works best for you.
Okay, you got hats and T-shirts that say Red River Ford.
Oh, yeah, lots of hats, good-looking hats.
They
too.
are. They're camouflage hats.
These are good-looking car dealer hats. I've been in a lot of car dealerships, and these aren't the cheesy old car dealer hats that you're used to. These are nice.
I love it. Hey, Justin, call us back in the next hour. We're looking forward to hearing from you. This is Justin Wynn, the general manager, Red River Ford Toyota. Two quick things. If you're going to Little Rock, the Forest City exit, turn right, go north on Highway 1 about 11 miles north. You're going to Heber Springs, back on the way back or going over there, right there about a half mile south of 64 by the Walmart is Red River Ford Toyota. And that's where Justin Wynn and the sales team are. And again, John Dobbs Jr. would love to see his friends from Memphis and the Mid-South come over there and work with these people. They will do whatever it takes. Win whatever is necessary. Thanks, Justin.
Thank you, Rob.
You bet. Hey, Jason Caldwell, I'm going to tell you one thing, man. Let's talk about this Auburn team. They got to go play at Mississippi State. And I think we all remember the game that set football back about 60 years, the 3-2 thriller back in 2008 in 11 innings. Auburn won 3-2. Auburn's going to go over there and play Mike Leach. They've played better the last couple of games. What's the mental state of the Auburn team? They snatched defeat from the jaws of victory last week against Texas A&M. And we know what all the talk about Gus Malzahn and all, but give us your update. And I've got Jake Crane from the J-Boy podcast and Jimmy Hodge up in Chicago with us.
Yeah, it's obviously it's a different game than it was a month ago at this time. A month ago at this time, you look at this game and go, man, this will be a walkover for Auburn. But now you look at Mississippi State, what they've done. You get a quarterback that understands the system, not making mistakes. And he just, he's taking what the defense gives him. And people talked about the way to play Mississippi State was to, just to sit back and not pressure, do those things. Well, that's what George did. And it almost cost them. They couldn't get off the field against Mississippi State. So you got to change things up, back there with that freshman quarterback playing. And then, defensively, this is a pretty stout Mississippi State defense. Doesn't have a ton of depth right now, but, they're pretty hard to run the ball against. And, when you hold Georgia to 8 yards rushing, Georgia came out and did some different things in that game. But in the end, Georgia had 8 yards rushing against Mississippi State. And, they took Georgia to the wire in Athens, something Auburn hadn't been able to do. So this is an interesting football game on Saturday.
Yeah, it will be. There are no easy games. You don't have those 4 non-conference games, but you've got to play one Power 5 team. But 3 of them are typically, what Jimmy Ott calls a rent-a-win. You're playing a team that you are clearly better than, and you get to hopefully empty the bench against. Jason, real quick before we go to Jimmy Hodge, what was it in that Auburn Texas A&M game that made you think the whole time that Auburn would find a way to fold in the fourth quarter? Because it seemed like the offensive line they're getting better, but there's still a long way to go. Bo Nix having to make runs like he did, that means he's running for his life because he doesn't have the protection. But A&M, and I'm nothing against A&M, they're not a great team. If they're the 5th best team in the country, that's not saying a lot clearly Alabama's the best team in the country. Notre Dame is the 2nd best. Then you got Clemson and Ohio State. But that was a sickening loss last week. It's just, of course, I don't like to see Auburn as an alumnus ever lose a game, but just it makes you want to pull your hair out.
Well, you talk about offensive line, but the defense is the issue right now for Auburn. It's not the offense obviously not playing great. The defense is the issue. There's 4 teams in the country right now that are worse on third downs than Auburn in the country. In games against 3 ranked opponents this year, Auburn's defense is giving up 62% conversion rate on third down. You cannot win games if you're not getting off the field. And last week Auburn had people talking about they didn't score in the first quarter. They had 2 possessions, and one of those finished in the second quarter with a field goal. So they had 1 full possession in the first quarter, and then you look in the fourth quarter and you have 2 second long, third longs. You don't convert, you don't get the ball back.
Yeah.
You can't. It's hard to score. And Auburn moved the ball fairly well and did a good job against Texas A&M on Saturday. And you're not going to finish every time in the red zone against a good defense. And Texas A&M's got a good defense. But if you don't get the ball, it's hard to win football games. Right now, that's the issue with Auburn. And we'll see if they can do it against Mississippi State. That team has moved the ball fairly well recently. This Auburn defense has struggled to get pressure. The one thing we know is Mississippi State's not going to run it for 300 yards. If they do, it'll be the greatest upset in the history of football. But, that's the issue for me right now is can Auburn get any pressure at all without having to blitz? And if you do that, can you make tackles in the secondary? To me, right now, the defense is a much bigger issue than the offense.
Yeah. Now, real quick before I go to Jake Crane, I want to say this. I can't remember a year, and I know Auburn by design, we were told, and it made sense, gave up 283 yards rushing against Ole Miss because they wanted to shut down the passing game, and they did. Elijah Moore had less than 30 yards receiving on 4 catches. But 300 yards against A&M. A&M, again, their offensive line is good. They're certainly not as good as Alabama's. But, again, this isn't an attack on you, Jason, at all. But, we got to get butter. We got to get butter. We hear it every year. And you as an Auburn fan, alumnus, but I mean, I just look at it objectively. They've got talent, but it's that line of scrimmage talent this year, especially on the defensive line. Auburn doesn't have it, and they don't have a big time pass rusher. And the teams that do, they're the top teams. The teams that don't, they're on the outside looking in. Jake Crane, come on in.
Oh, yeah. Well, Jason, what's up, man? Hope you're doing good, buddy.
Doing good.
The way I see it's like this, and I feel like something that is a big deal that not a lot of people talk about. Some do. We do, like Jason will, you know what I'm saying? That the people that really know do it is roster structure and management. And I just look in year 8, and you never plan a roster, especially when you're this deep into a regime, I guess you could say, to lose so much or be so deficient on both sides of the line of scrimmage at once. You see teams that are this deep, maybe lose 2 or 3 offensive linemen, maybe you lose a couple guys early for the draft, the senior grad. Some guys underneath that may struggle early, but you've recruited so well because you should be established to this point where you're signing good enough linemen where even the young guys after a while in week 8 and week 9, they're not young guys anymore. They're physically able to hang. They're just getting used to game speed. Auburn doesn't have that. I see on the defensive line, and it's not just A&M. Every offensive line that they've played that's been good, and they're lucky Tennessee decided to throw the ball the closer they got to the red zone, especially late. That defensive line just is not SEC caliber. Against the run, Jason said it. Before, Auburn's struggling to get pressure with 5. And it's the guys who I feel the worst for are the linebackers and really the secondary too, because if you're not able to get pressure, it's impossible to cover guys for 7-8 seconds. Smoke Monday doesn't have good enough hips, and Jamie and Sherwood isn't good enough. There's not a lot of good enough people in the world to cover guys for that long. When you're not able, and on the offensive line, you got a bunch of guards trying to play. Auburn doesn't have a tackle. Brodarius Ham is a guard. Alec Jackson is feeling his way at tackle, but athletically is a guard. And at this point in where you're at in year 8, I understand one side of the ball. And again, Auburn's been so bad on the defensive line that you should never be this bad. Insert should never be pounded that bad. Inside zone should never be pounded that bad. The running back's not getting touched until the safeties hit him. So at this point, Auburn's downfall is up front. And if you look at recruiting battles in the past, the big ones, you haven't won a lot of them up front. And you can have all the receivers in the world, all the DBs, all the quarterbacks. But if you don't have the guys up front, you're not going to win the games against teams that do. And that's been Auburn.
Yeah, oh, absolutely. You're right. And I kind of said the same thing. I think you look at and what's really been interesting is that for much of this year, until a couple of injuries, and that's all it really took on the offensive line, until a couple of injuries, the offensive line, which we knew was going to be, piecemealed anyway, was playing fairly well. I thought Jack McNeil would have the coaching job of the year. And then once you lose a couple of guys, there's not much left. And he's a guy that got brought into a no-win situation.
Oh yeah,
especially when you talk about that.
It's not Chad Morris either, in my opinion.
No. I think you're right. This is 4 years in the making, and something we've been pointing to. And even last year, you look and the offensive line was a pretty good pass blocking offensive line. It was not very physical. This year has been a pretty physical offensive line, but you got to find a way. You got to find a way to shore that up as quickly as possible, and you couldn't do that this year. There were no answers for that this year. And you're right about it. With Hank Bigsby, with all those guys healthy, with Brandon Council playing, with everything staying good, you weren't going to beat Alabama. You would beat Texas A&M if everything was perfect, but you can't count everything being perfect. And so there was no answers for them when something went wrong. But defensively, it's their guys. It's the guys they've recruited. It's the guys they brought in. It's the same system. And that's where you start going, okay, why is that not working? When, hey, you've got some guys, and let's give it, Colby Wooden has been the only guy. He's been the only guy that has delivered. But the first thing I got to do is, no matter who the coach is, no matter what happens, they're going out. They got to find a pass rusher, and it's got to be somebody that's ready to play right now. Because if you cannot rush the passer, Jake said, you can't get to the quarterback with 4, and you're struggling with 5 and 6. You have no chance to stop teams on third down because there's nothing you can do to hurt a team.
Yeah. Hey, real quick, Jason Caldwell, we've got Doug Dean from Birmingham on with us. And I know, Doug, you follow Auburn closely, passionate like all Auburn fans are, and fans of every school are. You've got some thoughts and questions for Jason Caldwell from Birmingham. Come on in.
Thank you. First of all, War Eagle to both Jason and Jake. It's Jason, he's the veteran that's been in the trenches, and Jake has too. And you shouldn't be blamed for your youth, Jake, but you're really bringing some strong analysis. So I wanted to compliment both of these gentlemen. I really mean that. And, from the cheap seats, Rob and guys, I'm put me in the category of fans that try to have some restraint, and, the programs that too frequently fire their coach and have this sort of romantic notion that it's linear. You go hire a guy that had a hot year or two recently and everything works out swimmingly. And we're replete with examples of that hasn't worked so well. Tom Herman, I could go on. Everybody knows the usual suspects. And to be fair, some of those, there's a bigger story to why they haven't lit it up and succeeded. And so who might be the next Dabo that looked bad for a few years and all of a sudden everything came together. But where I'm at after 8 years of body of work from Gus, and not really even focusing overly on this year, although we should have, it's almost an unpardonable sin for any coach to have such a complete collapse in offensive line recruiting, which, it can happen on a few players, but it shouldn't happen to the degree we've gone through it. And so where I'm at, which I wouldn't present Auburn, the Vox Populi, the whole Auburn fan base, but I think I'm pretty close. I think Gus is somebody that most sensible Auburn fans love many things about Gus. And to put it mildly, he will own it for all time. I suspect the most iconic outcome in a monster game of any coach in Division I for all time. I don't see that changing. Having said that, I just think it's too heavy of lifting for Gus, as I wrote today, to try to convince all good Auburn people to be inspired and excited about how next year we're going to solve the roster problems. We're going to move. I think it's just time. And I think the guy that I would look seriously at, and you don't have a can't miss out there, but I think the hot name and one that I would absolutely support is worth the risk is Mario Cristobal at Oregon. And you can find some warts, but you're going to find warts on anybody that is truly gettable. as a head coach. I'd love to hear you guys' response.
Okay, and let's do this real quick. Before we take that response, Jason, if you can hold with us for a few minutes, we're going to take, we've got one of our sponsors on the line, George Gully, 22 years, sales manager, Jim Karras Chevrolet 2000 Covington Pike in Memphis. No matter where you are, you can call George Gully at Jim Karras, the sales manager, cars, trucks, SUVs. His sales team is elite. And George, tell folks what's going on out there. I know in the first hour you had a customer in the office, but we are glad to have you, and let her rip.
Oh, it's going great right now, GM. And thank you, Rob, and to all the listeners out there. We appreciate your support this year. Here's what's going on. GM announced about a week ago something that doesn't come around every month, so to speak. We've got employee pricing. So that's the same price that I pay, same price as Jim Karras. Those pricing discounts are passed on to all the consumers, and that's plus the rebates and the low interest financing. So all of a sudden, Rob, it's just like the water faucet turned on. Everybody wants to come out and look at a new truck or a car, SUV, etc. So we've got a big sale going on. It goes on through Christmas. We want to tell and urge the customers to come out as soon as possible because we're running a little low. I mean, we're selling that fast. Unbeknownst to you, I sold 3 this afternoon, plus 2 more coming by in the morning. It's going to happen. You're going to save a lot of money. If they call me at 901-491-8343, we're located on Covington Pike, as you've announced many times. And I look forward to talking to you tomorrow, Rob. Thanks again.
Hey, look forward to it as well. You got a lot of great things going on, but your best thing about you is you're a great listener. You get people in the right vehicle. It's George Gully, sales manager, Jim Karras Chevrolet, 22 years, over 4,000 customers. And that ain't by accident, folks. Great people to work with. Jim Karras Chevrolet. We'll talk to you in the morning.
Thank you.
All right.
Thank you.
All right. You bet. Let's let that question that Doug Dean and Jason, Jake Crane's got to, I'm going to let him answer it first because I know he's got to get off here in a minute. And then I want you to answer it. We're not going to rob you of any time because, and I want to say this too about Jason and Jake. You guys, Jason, and you cover Auburn. You have for 20 years, a proud son of Sylacauga. Great town, Maury Gaston's hometown, and George Goober Lindsay's hometown. No. He's from Jasper. Gomer Powell is from Sylacauga, Alabama. But Jake Crane, answer that question as best you can. I know you got to go to one of your a basketball game for your cousin or your nephew, and I want to hear what you think. So does everybody else.
Yeah, man. Well, Doug, I appreciate the kind words first, buddy. I really do. I think it's this, and I don't look at it. I think anybody that assumes that Auburn should win a championship every year, that's delusional. It's not going to happen. I think outside of really what Alabama's done, you can't ask that, really of anyone, and it's really hard to even ask that of them. But I think you get to a point, and I've talked about this on the show, where that when mediocrity becomes acceptable and it becomes habitual, you start losing that strive to be that championship team. And the only way, in my opinion, when you look around this conference right now, and especially in the SEC West, where you got Mike Leach at State, Kiffin at Ole Miss, A&M with Jimbo's doing their thing. Obviously with Alabama, LSU is going to bounce back. We all know that. Arkansas is for real. It's shark-infested waters even more right now. And you have to try and raise the bar even more just to compete, not to even win it. You got to get even a little lucky to win it. But
Amen.
Chance to win it, you have got to reach, and it's got to be, listen, I think Auburn could average 9 wins a season with some SEC championship sandwiched in between 3 to 4 years, a playoff appearance, and especially for $7 million, in my opinion, you got to have that. But it all comes back to, if you lose, I say this, if you lose the ability to want to reach that level, to consider yourself elite, because there's a lot of people in the past, in the 50s and 60s and 70s and 80s and 90s and early 2000s, that bled and sweat to get Auburn out of the friend zone of the SEC, not to win the championship every year, but hey, we can do it because we've done it. That is what we judge ourselves on: championships, not winning 8 games, not being okay and beating a team once every couple years, but striving for that championship. And if you lose that ability and you lose accountability, then I think you lose the ability to do it. And all of a sudden you find yourself, and every risk, look, hiring a new guy, it's a risk either way. And to say anybody knows exactly what would happen, they don't. But if you lose the ability to say, we want to be we want to be champions, we think we can be champions, then you have lost the ability to compete. And I think that's kind of what's been bled into the waters here lately. And especially with some statements that have been made, I know didn't sit well with some people. I just think if you lose the ability to strive, you lose the ability to survive, man.
And start with not being embarrassed by your arch rivals.
Yeah, that's exactly right. I mean, 2-7 versus Georgia. And listen, you really should be 1-8. And again, the play was made, the Hail Mary was made, and I understand. But I just feel like if you look at recruiting and all this stuff, and you guys know what I mean, you're not going to win it every year, but you got to be in it to even have a chance to contend. And it's a slippery slope if you start saying, okay, I'm not okay, you're not okay, but that's okay, to quote White Goodman off Dodgeball.
Yeah, Jason Caldwell, weigh in here, because what you have to say carries a ton of weight.
Yeah, no, there's no question when you start looking at things and look at, really since 2013, you look at it and go, who are the teams that you have to beat? The teams that you have to beat to be there every season. And to do that at Auburn right now, there's a bunch of those teams, but you look at Alabama, you look at Georgia, you look at LSU. You got to beat those teams to contend every year. And if you eliminate beating them away from home, then it means every time you play them at home, you got to win, to have a shot. And that's where you've been. You haven't won a game. You haven't won a road game against those teams. And to do that, that's where you got to be. You got to be able to go on the road and beat people. And as Jake, we're talking about, that starts up front. And if you look at overall right now, if you look at the biggest issue, and people go, well, development quarterbacks, those things. A lot of people had issues developing quarterbacks.
Yeah.
If you're good up front, then it'll mask anything you want to do. And
it develops.
Well, here's the thing right now. I think Mac Jones is a really good player.
Yeah,
but
I agree.
Mac Jones, if you flip teams 2 weeks ago and put Bo Nix with Alabama and Mac Jones with Auburn, the score is exactly the same and maybe worse.
Yeah, put Bo Nix on Georgia. Watch what happens.
Yeah, I mean it is that much difference, and that's the issue. And so, can you fix that enough in 1 year? I think we're going to see that. We're going to see that tried, because they're going to go after some transfers. They already have one. There'll be more of those to see if you can fix the offensive line in the short term. But you got to get better recruiting in that area for anything else to follow suit.
Yeah. Listen, Jason Caldwell, great points. We're running a little bit behind today. You bring so much to this show, and Jimmy Hodge, we're gonna bring you in. We're gonna bring Jimmy Ott on after the commercial. But what you do, and Jake Crane covering Auburn so much, and Doug Dean, God only knows, man, you touch so many people. I think you're seeing is people are passionate, and it's not about loving. Coaches come and go. It's a love of school. It's a love of all things Auburn. I mean, I've got a son in school there now. He lives next door to y'all over there on North College, Jason, inside the Auburn Tigers. You can't get better people than you and Mark Murphy, Philip Marshall. Come on. You all are solid as a rock. I know you got a tough job. You probably don't like hearing people complain and say this coach has got to go or that coach has got to go. But you know what? At least people care. And that is critically important. And great points made by all. Real quick, and Doug Dean, hang on the line with us. Jimmy Hodge up in Chicago. We're going to be right back with you. And I want to say, but Jimmy Ott is on the line with us. So we're going to have to take a quick break. But I want to say this. Jason Caldwell, inside the Auburn Tigers. Tell people how they can follow you, because you put out great work. Your Monday morning mailbag, all the stuff that you do. We appreciate it so much. I read it religiously. Okay. But you put out stuff, the good book on Auburn. How can people follow you? And you're worth following no matter what, because you do your work.
Yeah. You can check us out, obviously, at utigers.com, auburnundercover.com will get you there as well. And right now, I think it's 60% off for first-time subscribers. So if you're looking for the Christmas gift, it's a good time to do it. And then also follow me on Twitter at ITATJason. And me and Mark Murphy be on the road fairly bright and early, heading for Starkville tomorrow.
All right, y'all be careful over there, and look forward to hearing from you next week. Jason Caldwell, inside the Auburn Tigers. Hey, real quick, before we go to Jimmy Ott, from ESPN 104.5 in Baton Rouge. I want to say something about one of our sponsors, Tom Dorian of the Dorian Agency, 6240 Poplar Avenue in Memphis. I've known Tom since 1978, a member of the 77 state championship team at Christian Brothers High School, De La Salle, St. John. Listen, you can't get better guy. Father of 5, member of Curcio, De Caloris, Tom. If you have insurance needs and you think you need insurance, whether it's life insurance, auto insurance, renters, property and casualty, go talk to Tom Dorian. Do yourself a favor. It's like having a conversation with a good friend, and you're going to hear some information. If Tom can help you, he will. If not, he's going to say, look, what you've got is fine. I'm not going to mess up what you've got. He's not trying to sell you something. He's trying to help you get what you need. My wife and I, Audrey, we're like everybody else. We don't want to hear another insurance commercial. We met with Tom this summer. We listened. 2 days later, we said, where do we sign? That's how good he is. He cares about his people that he works with. He has a great support team up there. Check him out, the Tom Dorian at the Dorian Agency, 6240 Poplar Avenue in East Memphis. Give him a call, 901-328-5858, and check out his hyperlink on our website at sidelines.live. Tom, glad to have you. You're a great man. Jimmy Ott, if you can do this, and we'll give you time. I know you're on a tight schedule. We're going to take a quick commercial break. We're going to be right back. Talk to Jimmy Ott from ESPN 104.5 in Baton Rouge, talking about LSU. And look, we're going to be with you till 5 o'clock Central, 6 o'clock Eastern, sidelines.live. Good? Okay. Hey, Jimmy.
Hey,
thank you so much. Hey, Jimmy, got Jake and Doug. Doug, you're still on with us, correct?
Yep.
Okay. Yeah, y'all talk for a second. I've been drinking a few Bud Lights. I'm going to run. I'll be right back. And we got about a minute 15. So y'all talk amongst yourselves. I'll be right with you.
Yes, sir.
yeah, Jake, I think that, again, when this immediate eligibility rule gets changed next month and becomes official, I think really every SEC school is going to be benefited from that, because if you get to go after any player from any school and other conferences, and you've had a chance to look at them for a year or more than that, and they're interested in making a move. I mean, who wouldn't want to play in the SEC? And I think a lot of these teams that need help up front, especially, but we're in any position, but especially when you look at Auburn's situation that's come up in the last month when they were down 2 offensive line starters, going into Tuscaloosa. And then, you obviously need to have backups that, or at least when you put them in there's not much of a drop off. And then, you had to replace 3 first-round draft picks off that defense. And, I think that rule will help a lot. And then you got the JC route you can always look at. And, geographically, that's a good option because, the Mississippi Junior College League is so strong. I'm sorry. I thought Jake was still online. I'm sorry.
I did too, Jimmy. This is
Hey,
Doug Dean. How are you, sir?
How you doing, man?
Oh, good, man. Good. Yeah, Jimmy. Hey, Jake was, of course, this has been his concern, and he's mentioned for several weeks, just, Auburn's recruiting issues. In this current class, particularly, they had some prominent decommits they lost, and, to other schools, and the depth this year has really kind of become noticeable because this is the first time and the only time in our lifetimes that you're going to see a 10-game all SEC schedule. So if you get some injuries and various things happen, man, you can find yourself in a bind in a hurry.
Yeah. Everything's so sideways right now, man. I mean, people, it's Armageddon down here, man. I mean,
Oh yeah.
everybody is freaking out, and I mean, it's just such a sideways season, with people changing the rules as you go and all
Oh yeah. Welcome to the Big Ten.
that. Hey, well, here's our schedule. Schedule season. We're back. Stupid rule. Change our stupid rule.
Yeah.
Is that Jimmy Ott, LSU on the line here?
Yes.
Hey,
Yeah.
Jimmy, this is Doug Dean. I don't mean to hope I'm not walking on anybody. Doug Dean from Birmingham, Auburn guy, but I love the whole SEC. I'd be curious, and maybe Rob will ask.
Yeah.
Do you believe that? Do you sense that the LSU faithful are thinking long term and taking a deep breath and just realizing this is one of those tough years, and they're behind Coach O at this point?
Okay, we're at 20 seconds.
There ain't a whole lot of deep breaths going on down there, man.
Hey, Doug. Hey, 10 seconds, guys. 10 seconds. We'll
the
ask
LSU fan base has an asthmatic state as far as deep breaths.
Here we go. 5 seconds. Okay. Hey, Rob Brown back here with you on the Friday afternoon edition of www.sidelines.live. Man, we have got Jimmy Ott from ESPN 104.5 down in Baton Rouge talking LSU Tigers. Jimmy, and I texted you during the break, we got Jimmy Hodge up in Chicago, Doug Dean from over in Birmingham. We're going to be with you till 5 o'clock Central, 6 o'clock east of the Chattahoochee, east of the Caney Fork River. And but Jimmy, I wanted to say, last week, the segment we had on Saturday morning show, Sports 56 WHBQ, will be on again tomorrow, 8 to 10 a.m. Central on Sports 56 WHBQ, and Sunday, 3 to 5 p.m. on the wrap-up show. Jimmy, you made some of the best comments. It may have been your best appearance ever on Sidelines, and we thank you so much for taking time just about every week to be with us. But as a father of 3 children, and you've got a son playing football, your comments last week about, hey, the big picture, long term, were so spot on. If you were a coach, I would love it if one of my kids played for you. You're a damn good man. But Jimmy Ott, welcome to Sidelines. You're down in Natchez, I think, right now. But let's talk some LSU Tigers, and great comments. We ought to have that show called.
Do we have to? Really? Do we have to talk Tigers right now?
Hey, look.
I am so tired of talking about the Tigers, man. I mean, look, we got to throw a hell of a New Year's Eve party, brother. Let me tell you, okay? This is 2020. We're going to flush this thing right down the tube.
I agree. I want to start off with the first question because we've got Doug Dean with us from Birmingham, Jimmy Hodge up in Chicago. Jake Crane had to bounce off and go to his nephew's basketball game down there in Tupelo. But I want to ask you this. We all know LSU in this millennium, 3 different coaches, and all have won a national championship. I don't think that that's ever happened in the history of college football. Okay. Last year, look, that 15-0 run, arguably that and the 95 Nebraska team that beat Florida 62-24 in the national championship game under Tommy Frazier out of Manatee High School in Bradenton, the 2 greatest teams. And again, Tommy Frazier was a heck of a quarterback, but he was no Joe Burrow, who had 5,700 yards passing. Now, look, we're going to look past this year. LSU is recruiting at an elite level, Jimmy. And again, the Alabama game, we know what happened there. It wasn't a pretty sight. LSU's had 3 key players, Terrence Marshall and Jamar Chase, both opt out, and a big defensive tackle opt out. I don't know of another school that's had the deal
Rob,
ever with what they've had.
Listen, and I spoke with you. I spoke with you Saturday morning, and I didn't expect anything. But I can tell you this, okay? When you got Henry Ruggs and Devontae Smith, the advantage of that is like, okay, pick your poison. Who are you going to guard? But they lose Ruggs. So for 24, Derek Stingley not to be on Devontae Smith, number 6, is criminal, okay? And then during the broadcast, the nice young lady doing the sideline reporting says, yes, we just got reports that Derek Stingley went to the staff and said, can I guard Devontae Smith? Are you freaking kidding me? Like, you help yourself out a little bit. Okay, listen, I mean, there's championship hangover, there's this and that. And then there's stuff that women and children all know. Wait, I thought Stingley was so good. I thought this guy's so good. Why doesn't he guard him? I mean, you got to help yourself out. And There's the disconnect. Pelini got no shot. He's gone. Okay.
Yeah.
Let's that's done. Okay. Yeah. We don't want to take on any more. We don't incur any more costs than we have to during COVID. But yeah, 3 years, 6.3. Don't care. Here's your $4 million. Get the hell out of here. Okay.
Yeah.
That's one. There's going to be about. I expect a Steve Ensminger, who's a great guy, but just kind of he's been through a lot. Personal stuff, a lot of things. Okay. We expect a retirement there. Okay.
Yeah.
I expect the offensive line coach to possibly not make it, and one other assistant. Major staff changes. We get that, and that's happened all the time. But I mean, it is. I mean, if you're ever going to flush a season, wouldn't you rather do this? I mean, and then some people are getting upset. A preseason ban. I mean, we're going to self-impose a ban bowl. I mean, I'm sorry, a bowl ban. I'm like, can we give these 3 wins away too and get some credit with the NCAA? I mean, why? I mean, flush the whole thing. It's a joke. Hey, give us our 2019. That cannot be taken away. But part of that is part of the problem we talked about all the time. All of these guys that are playing that didn't see the field last year were being told how great they were. And the staff has changed. There's internal issues, absolutely. But I mean, I am worn out down here in Baton Rouge. Like, can we? I mean, what have you done for me lately? It's not like that doesn't exist anymore in college football. I thought that only happened in Auburn, where you win a national championship, you get launched 2 years later.
Yeah.
I mean, they're still paying what, 6 coaches? I mean, with the buyouts, but
yeah,
it's on over here, and it just doesn't exist. But that's the thing. Like, okay, we lost a lot of players, the opt-outs, but 2024 is going to be a top 5 pick next year. He possibly will be the top player pick that's not a quarterback, and we don't use him. Well, I mean, how many? The first touchdowns? Does it take the second touchdown? And then you're getting embarrassed by saying, yes, we've learned on the sideline that Derek Stingley asked to on Devontae Smith. I'm no freaking kidding. And that's the thing. That's where it really doesn't help. So, I mean, that's the problem. Hey, it's 2020. The whole March thing without knowing, and then there was a very, very scathing report by the local newspaper, The Advocate, this that when they went to meet about the march after, the players didn't really like Ogeron the way he responded to it. So there's a major splinter between the staff and the players. Nothing that can't be fixed. Everybody wants to transfer. I know 17 kids that went away as freshmen to different schools around the South as freshmen, just regular students in college. They get homesick because they're tired of eating every damn meal in their dorm room. I'm like, we could do more at home. They're coming back home after one semester. So Eric Gilbert gets homesick and stuff like that, whatever. But it's just, I'm ready to do a reset. And if you're going to flush a season, this is the one to do it. But I didn't expect it to be this bad. And damn it, help yourself out. Put 24 on 6. I mean, I love seeing Patrick Peterson for 2 years go against Julio Jones, home and away. Well, I love seeing for 2 years Patrick Peterson go against A.J. Green. Those were great matchups. A.J. Green won some, Pat Pete won some. Julio won some, Pat Pete won some. And you know that Derek Stingley wants to guard Devontae Smith. But no, we'll do it at halftime when we're down 45 to 7. So that's really, really I mean, that's like Les Miles calling timeouts with the damn clock stops. I mean, what's next? So,
yeah, it's been a crazy year, and you're right. The people every day asking about, well, what can we do? Look, it does get old. Gene Chizik, 2 years after the national championship, lost control of the team and ended up losing his job at Auburn. It's like a witness protection program. He got $7.5 million over the next 36 months. Hey, Jimmy, not a bad deal to go out to your ATM the first of every month for 36 months and have $208,000 and change dumped into your account. That's look, Gene Chizik's a good man too. But Bo Pelini and Coach O, they get along about like Ted Cruz and Nancy Pelosi, but I digress. Jimmy Hodge, you're up in Chicago. Weigh in here right now, because I look at LSU. We know they've got a ton of talent this year. Just forget about it. Forget about it. But it's going to be better. We know what LSU is capable of. They are an elite program, a thoroughbred, but I've never seen it in history. And I'm a numbers guy. It's what I do for a living, Jimmy and Doug. I've never seen a program lose this many players in the draft, free agency, and then the opt-out stuff we've had to deal with this year. So, look, you want to pick on LSU, that's fine. If you don't like LSU, that's your deal. I happen to like LSU. I respect them. They're one of the best programs in college football, and they are to college football what sand is to the beach. Jimmy Hodge, come on in.
Well, there was so much talk about the personnel losses that LSU had off that national championship team, and I don't know if that's ever been equaled as far as the number of key players they lost off that team in one season. But I think what I just noticed right away, and I was concerned about, was that the two coaches they brought in to replace the two coaches they lost were just not, in my mind, off the top of my head, not even close to the caliber of coaches that just left. Joe Brady is, he's just an offensive genius, and he had the perfect quarterback, and he just fit into the system like fingers in a nice expensive glove. It was just a perfect marriage. And then they had great personnel on the defensive side. Aranda was the perfect personality, the perfect X and O's guy to be Orgeron's defensive coordinator. It was just a perfect fit, and it just seemed like this year it was exactly the opposite. But and also, we all know this, but the job of your coaches, of your coordinators, is you obviously can't play yourself, but it's to put your best players in the best position to succeed. And I'm wondering the same thing as Jimmy was describing all of this. What could have possibly been the mindset to have Flott on Deontay Smith? I mean, it made absolutely no sense, combined with the fact that Stingley would be super motivated for this game because he did not have a good game against Alabama last year. And he wanted to really show pro scouts, hey, this is what I can do against a first-round draft pick because I'm a first-round draft pick. And the whole thought process there, and I guess maybe Pelini, he was just at a point, I'm just going to do what I'm going to do. That's the only thing I can think of. What's your thought about that, Jimmy?
Well, stubbornness is, that's the only thing. Okay, he's going to be on the right side. Devontae's going to be on the left side. That's the only thing. Shoot, you could flip a coin. You got to have a 50-50 shot to get on the right side with him. But this is going out of your way to be. This is the one thing we want to see. And that's why Ruggs is so important. And Alabama hasn't shown it to this point. But that's the thing. Pick your poison. If you got, that's where DK Metcalf, he's having a pretty nice season in the NFL, right? Well, guess what? Number 20 for the Rams never left him. That's why he got 2 catches for 28 yards. Nuke Hopkins, DeAndre Hopkins for the Cardinals. You know what he averaged? 4 yards per target against number 20, Jalen Ramsey. He's that guy in college football. He is the best cover corner. It's not even close. He's going to be a top. It's not top 5, 6 or 7. Okay, give me that. But he's gone way high in the first round next year, and we just wasted. That's one thing if you got Waddle and Smith. But once you lose Waddle, it's like we gave him back to him because they went to how much more could they go to him? And no, that's just fundamental, man. That's just asking to get launched. And and Pelini is just, and he had a good game against Jimbo Fisher. They did a great job. They covered well, but Jimbo has more of a traditional approach to his offense. Anything that's a little modern, he is something. Now, Rob, you said LSU's got talent. LSU had elite talent, but spotty talent on this. They do not have a cross. They got some real holes. And that's one thing to like break in, one freshman or this guy, and get him in like that when everybody else surrounding him is good. For instance, like Harris, the linebacker for Baton Rouge for Alabama. He had to start as a freshman. Well, he took his lumps, but it wasn't terrible because he had a lot of guys around him. But you got like 5 of those guys on both sides of the line of scrimmage right now. So they have a lot of holes. And then their numbers, man, we're talking about they might have offered scholarship players like 68 to 70 for next year. And that's what has people really concerned for next year.
Yeah, and those numbers will drive you crazy. Jimmy, I know you've got to go, and I know Doug Dean has a question for you, and we'll let you go because you've got another obligation. But Doug Dean down in Birmingham, come on in. You've got Jimmy Ott, ESPN 104.5 in Baton Rouge. The luckiest man in the world gets to do a show from a different restaurant 5 days a week in Baton Rouge in Louisiana. And I'm going to tell you something. That's the greatest food on earth. Doug, go ahead.
Yeah, thank you. First, I'm enjoying the hell out of the conversation from both Jimmys.
It's awesome.
Jimmy, let me just tell you, Jimmy, let me throw you. You got to pull for somebody. I'm an Auburn guy, but I've got a lot of love for the LSU faithful. I've never had a bad trip there, and I'll just tell you, next time you're in the loveliest village, when we won't be wearing, none of us will be wearing a damn chin diaper, if you know what I mean.
Face diapers.
The drinks are on me, Jimmy. I'm serious. But let me give you the LSU faithful some hope from this suffering Auburn man. And I love our program. I can take a bad year or two. We understand how difficult it is to stay on the mountaintop in this brutal league when you got programs like Alabama, Georgia, and LSU doing what they're doing, and now Florida. We got to start worrying about them. But I can hear it in your voice. One thing LSU is not dealing with is apathy. And Auburn at the moment, if they don't make our leadership doesn't make some smart moves, courageous moves with risk involved, we get it, then apathy is the damn enemy. And that's a lot worse than having a bad season. And as you said, Jimmy, this is the right year to have a terrible season.
Yeah.
Well, I got a psychology degree, so I'm trying to, give therapy to these damn lunatics down here. But the thing is, do you want to give back last season? This is such a throwaway season. The ACC. Okay, we're gonna try and bend over for Notre Dame. Oh, well, they got to play Wake Forest. Oh, but they don't want to play a game if Clemson doesn't play a game. So, no, we don't make Clemson play Florida State. We're going to Notre Dame, we want you to be in the conference. You never will be. Let's say, okay, skip your game this week. It's bogus. It's nonsense this year. But listen, if you got a soft spot, you're part for the LSU back, come on down here. We need you. Trust me. You can buy drinks down here. But, a lot of programs are dealing with, they want to opt out. The transfer portal. It's, all the things socially. It's a lot is going on that when you're getting patted on the back and you're like, you're the king of the Mardi Gras parade right now, like Ogeron and everybody is, it's hard to, get back in the trenches. And that's what this program, and that's why it's more pronounced, because the opt-outs, the draftees, my goodness, the kids LSU's never had close to this rookie class that they have in the NFL. Never had close. And that's what you miss. So there's a lot of things going on that they don't know if O can fix it. He's going to have the chance, but everything that's going on, all of these coaches are getting fired. All of them, minus Saban. Everyone that's come through this league, minus Urban Meyer and Saban, get fired. They're all making more money. And they're all making more money than they ever have. How can they sustain it? How long can they keep it going? But I thought had a lot more mileage a lot more cushion that he built up. But man, it's getting chewed up left and right over here. And I think it's a little bit of an overreaction by the fan base because it's such an asterisk year. But man, it's real, and his mileage is getting chewed up.
Yeah,
Man,
You
guys have
think
a great weekend, bro.
coordinator hires are critical?
yeah. Well, let me say this. I know Jimmy's got to get off, but saying you're the best team in the SEC one year is like saying you're the toughest guy in a bar and you're a Navy SEAL. The other guy's Delta. The other guy's 3rd Ranger Battalion. The other guy is Air Force, paramilitary. The other one's Marine Recon. The other one's Green Beret. This is the league that we live in. Jimmy, what I love most about you is your passion.
Can Malzahn survive a state loss? Or is this his job on the line here?
I don't know.
We hope not.
Yeah. Hey, Jimmy, we all need to get together, drink a bunch of road sodas, eat some gumbo and jambalaya. Because I'm gonna tell you something. I'm a Doug Dean. Jimmy, my dad was going to walk on. He was a preferred walk on at LSU, 1950, 51, chose architecture at Auburn. But I go to, St. Louis Catholic Church in Memphis. We have a ton of LSU fans in Memphis. I told you, I grew up listening to John Ferguson and the LSU Network, 87 WWL with Hap Glaudy. The King Edward cigar time is 7:00. Lake Pontchartrain traffic report. I love Louisiana. My great-great-grandfather lived in Thibodaux for 20 years, the first Episcopal bishop in Louisiana. They are great people, and you are the tip of the spear of those people. How can people follow you, and we'll let you go?
Jimmy on Twitter at JimmyOtt1045 on 1045ESPN.com, Monday through Thursday, 6 to 8 p.m., Friday and Sunday from 10 to noon. You guys have a great weekend. Enjoyed it as always.
Hey, you do too, always, man. And I'm going to tell you what, you got to love Jimmy Ott, guys. A truth broker extraordinaire. And let me say something real quick about a couple of our sponsors. Then I'm going to talk with Michael Jordan, a special guest who's just joined us over here at the Cherry Farm. And you're going to be excited to hear what Michael has to say. And he's bouncing the ball over there on the side. But I want to say, first of all, Tom Dorian, the Dorian Agency, 6240 Poplar Avenue in Memphis. I'm going to tell you what, I've known Tom since 1978. CBHS alumnus, member of the 1977 state championship team that beat Baylor, played for Coach Tom Nix and the Purple Wave. Also for the University of Memphis, 3-year starter on the offensive line. Look, most people like talking about insurance like they like getting a colonoscopy, okay? It's not something they really want to go do. My wife, Audrey, and I are 2 of those people. We don't like talking about insurance. We met with Tom Dorian this summer. It is like having a conversation with a friend. He talks about what is out there, what you need, life insurance, property and casualty, homeowners, you name it, okay? When you're talking with Tom Dorian, it is again a conversation with a friend. We listened to what he had to say. 2 days later, we went up there and we said, where do we sign and how can we pay you fast enough? Tom Dorian, the Dorian Agency. And again, one other thing, if you're like most Americans, you might go years between making a claim on your property and casualty, your homeowners, your car insurance, or whatever. I've got 3 kids. I've made plenty of claims, but you may go years without making a claim. They have a program that can return up to 25% of your premiums. Call them Tom Dorian, the Dorian Agency, 6240 Poplar Avenue in East Memphis, 901-328-5858. Also, another one of our sponsors, Red River Ford Toyota, Justin Wynn, General Manager, Rusty Howard, the Sales Manager. These guys aren't just salesmen. They are your partners. They are trusted advisors. John Dobbs Jr., I've known John since we were kids. Kirby, Edward, Julie, the Great Hole, Miss Dobbs, the whole family. The car and truck business, they are at as good as it gets in the Memphis and the Mid-South area. John Dobbs Jr., part of the Red River Auto Group ownership group. If you're going to Little Rock, get off at the Forest City exit. Go north on Highway 1 about 11 miles, Red River Ford Toyota. If you're going to Heber Springs, on the way over there, on the way back, like Michael Sag goes over there a lot on the lake. He's a barefoot water ski champion. And I'm going to tell you one thing. Stop by. It's about a half mile south of 64. Red River Ford Toyota. They'll be there tonight till about 7 or till the last sale is done. All day tomorrow. It's duck season. It's deer season. It's always truck, car, and SUV season. They've got Ford and Toyota cars and trucks. Justin's driving a Toyota Tundra, great looking truck. We got Wes Moore is on the line with us right now from ESPN 103.7 The Buzz in Little Rock. Woo! Pig, Suey, Razorbacks. He's going to be giving us the Call on the Hogs report here in just a minute. But Red River Ford Toyota, great people to work with. Justin Wynn, general manager, Rusty Howard, Nate, the whole staff over there. These people are winners. Check them out, Red River Ford Toyota. You can do a lot of the work online before you get there. They'll be there all night and again all day tomorrow in Wynn, Arkansas, Red River Ford Toyota. I want to talk real quick with Michael Jordan before we go to Westmore. Michael Jordan is taking time to join us, and I've worked with Michael for 11 years. He has put together our Cherry Farm Duck Club. You went over there to Red River Ford Toyota last night. You saw the future truck, your future next truck wife, and great place to be. But, you know, we've been talking a lot about selling. You got to sell your fans. You got to sell recruits on your program. Just give us the Cliff Note version. If you're the new coach, whether it's at Auburn or LSU or Arkansas, whatever, give us the Cliff Note version, no matter where you are. If you're the head coach, why you are the man who can change things on a positive side and why somebody wants to buy from you or become part of you, because we talk about it a lot. Jimmy Hodge in Chicago, one of the 4 people from Adidas who went all over the country to rebrand the sports brand. Doug Dean down at, Children's Hospital in Birmingham. I mean, these are great people. Wes Moore does a daily radio show over there in Little Rock, 103.7 The Buzz, talks to Razorback fans all the time. But Jimmy, sell people. You're the new coach at Arkansas. You spend a lot of time over here. Why in the world, why not go to Alabama? Why not go to Auburn or Georgia or Florida or LSU? Talk about the importance of being able to convince people that going with you is the smartest decision they'll ever make in your life, in business, in sports, and in life.
Well, Rob, you kind of threw me on the spot. Running a duck club is kind of totally different than running a football program. But, it's all about trust. You got to get people to trust you, to believe in what you're building, and they got to see the vision of your development. Some of it may take years, some of it may take months, some of it may be immediate. It's all about getting people. They got to like you. You got to be friends with them. You got to be friendly. You got to, there's all kinds of different personalities out there that, you're bringing in these duck clubs. I got guys coming in from Chicago tonight. I've never met them before in my life, but I'm going to treat them like they're my brother, and I'm going to show them around, and I'm going to make them welcome. We got a guy coming in from Nashville. I haven't seen him in years, and we want to make it a family environment. Think about these guys that are playing football. You get, if mama ain't happy, ain't nobody happy. So, we just try to make it fun, and it's no pressure. It's just we just try to. You want to make the ball roll down the road, and we have an ultimate goal, and that's to have a happy hunting club, and where everybody comes together, and it's all about fellowship. But at the same time, we want to win. The ultimate goal is kill ducks. So, but we want to just make it fun.
Yeah. Well, I'm going to tell you this. The reason I wanted to have you talking about it is because you're talking about selling. Wes Moore, Jimmy Hodge, Doug Dean on here with us right now. And, Wes, let's talk about these Razorbacks. And, bottom line is I work with Michael. We're both in the selling business, building relationships. Sam Pittman, I would love to have him come over here to the Cherry Farm, sit in front of the fire, drink a few hams beers with us, and talk about what he's doing with the Razorbacks. But, Wes, let's go back 12 months. Let's push the clock back. A year ago, Arkansas fans were apathetic. Now they're madder than a house full of wet hens because the Razorbacks They lost the LSU game. They feel like they blew it. They got robbed in the Auburn game. The Missouri game, think about that, 50-48, a crushing defeat. What's the mental state of the Razorback fans? And right now, their recruiting class, I think, is number 20 in the country. I told people Sam Pittman and the Razorbacks are building something special. Go ahead, Wes.
I felt like this week talking with fans, they weren't upset. I mean, they were disappointed in the way the Missouri game went down, but they feel good about the future because you saw KJ Jefferson come in. I think for the most part, when this kept very quiet about the Felipe Franks and his rib injury, and word didn't leak out until really Friday night. Probably then most of the fans found out Saturday morning listening to the pregame show or watching it on TV that Felipe Franks wasn't going to play. And the first reaction, I think, for most fans was, oh, no, well, there goes that chance. We don't have a chance now. They hadn't seen Felipe Franks since last year, and neither had the media. We had no idea, but it was obvious that KJ Jefferson's improved a lot. And that kid from Mississippi came in and played a heck of a ball game. The offensive line played their best game by far and opened up running lanes. And you saw Traylon Smith run for over 100 yards, and Jefferson ran for about 70 yards, and then he was able to throw the ball. And so that offense with the backup quarterback, who appears to be the future quarterback, had a heck of a game. And so that's what I think Razorback fans took away from that game. Yes, it's disappointing, but you know what? If Felipe Franks decides to go to the NFL, we got the quarterback of the future on campus right now.
Well, Felipe Franks has been successful this year, and he's shown what Kendall Browse, when you put Kendall Browse in charge of the offense, and Kendall Browse and Kendall Browse in charge of the offense, a lot of good things can happen. And I look at Arkansas as, and you and I talked about this last year when we started doing this show. We just started August 9th of 2019, Sidelines, a little over, 16 months, about the time we started working on the Cherry Farm, Wes, over here in Parkin. And by the way, Wes, we invite you anytime you want to come over here to get a chainsaw out, cut up firewood, work with the log splitter, and work with Michael Jordan, who you just heard, who is our Sergeant Carter of the Duck Club. But it's just been fun to watch what's going on with Arkansas. And again, I think that recruiting class is going to crack in below number 20 by the time February is wrapped up, because obviously we know about the December period, December 16th, 17th, and 18th. But just an amazing class. But we've got Jimmy Hodge, Wes, on up in Chicago, and Doug Dean. Let me go to Jimmy Hodge in Chicago because I know he's got a couple of questions. And again, Wes Moore, we love having you on here calling the Hogs.
Yeah, Wes, I guess my question is how does really Arkansas approach this game? Obviously they have an opportunity to once again just see how they measure up, and I'm guessing that it's going to be much like the Georgia game when they came in for the opener. Instead of a number 4, number 5 ranked team, you got the top ranked team in the country, and I don't think there's any question that the Hogs are going to be motivated. They're going to play hard for 60 like they have all year. And do you? And I also wanted to ask this because the bowl requirements are totally different this year. If the Hogs have a really good effort tomorrow, they're able to be competitive for a good portion of the game. Do they have an opportunity? How are they looking as far as maybe getting a chance to play in a bowl game? Because all the bowl requirements have been pretty much eliminated by the decision makers that determine all that in this pandemic year.
Well, I can tell you this: Sam Pittman, the Razorbacks, and the fans are planning on going to a bowl game. They're very confident that they'll be in a game. I think you look at a kind of rejuvenated program that wants to be there, and that's attractive for a bowl, a lower tier bowl. You've already seen LSU drop out and say that, self-imposed penalty. They're not going to a bowl this year. So that opens up another spot. I'm very confident Arkansas will be in a bowl game this year, and they'll be excited about playing in a bowl game. And that's what, these bowls and ESPN, they want a team that wants to be there. And so I do think they'll be there. I think you nailed the Alabama game. Coach Pittman came on and talked with everybody earlier this week, and he said, look, when you match us up against teams that we're similar with right now, we're fighting them, and we're winning some of those games. And we should have won some of the other games. But we're not there with Florida, Georgia, and A&M. 1 through 85, their roster's not where it needs to be. And that's where the recruiting comes in. So I expect you're going to see something tomorrow, and they're going to be outmanned. But I'll tell you what, they will not be outfought. And Coach Pittman bragged on his bunch. He said, you know what? This team continues to play no matter what. He said, people, just remember that we lost that late lead against Missouri. But you forget we were down 10-0. You forget that we were trailing in the fourth quarter and drove down and retook the lead. This team doesn't quit. And it made me look. I went back and looked. Arkansas scored the last 14 points against Texas A&M, even though they were trailing pretty big. They scored the last touchdown against Florida. And it won't surprise me if tomorrow Arkansas scores the last touchdown against Alabama. Now, I don't think it's going to, maybe it covers the spread or something, but this team is going to continue fighting all the way till the end. They're going to give you everything they got, no matter what the score is against Alabama.
Well, look, Wes, before we go to Doug Dean down in Birmingham, and you've heard me say this before, and Jimmy, you've heard it. Sam Pittman is a modern-day version of Pat Dye in a lot of ways. Pat Dye got to Auburn in 1981. Auburn had lost 8 in a row to Alabama. They were scared of Alabama. Let's be honest. Doug Dean, I'm right, and Auburn people listening out there, they were scared of him. But BS, okay? And someone said, at his first press conference, January 2nd, 1981, Coach, Auburn's lost 8 in a row to Alabama. Alabama's just on a roll and all this. And how long is it going to take for you to beat Alabama? Pat Dye didn't even miss a beat. He said about 60 minutes, okay? That's why you see the PD 60 minutes on the field at Jordan-Hare Stadium. But again, he also said, we may not be the most talented team in America, the biggest, or the strongest, the fastest. We may not have all the big name players. There ain't a reason in the world why we can't be the hungriest, hardest working, toughest bunch of SOBs out there, and we will get after your ass on Saturday. That's what's happening at Arkansas. And that's why when you cross that bridge coming into Arkansas, you hear that, hey, one state, one team. Arkansas State fans will argue, but the Razorback fans, and I spend a lot of time in Arkansas, Wes, are on fire. But Doug Dean, don't you love the passion of these people? They are on fire.
I do. And Wes, as a 2020 suffering Auburn fan, I want to tip my hat to Sam Pittman. And I'll take my crow medium rare. I just didn't know Coach Pittman in terms of how he would fare as a head coach. And I missed that one. I wasn't predicting doom. I just didn't really. And if I'm an Arkansas fan, I wouldn't get wound up about the absolute wins and losses this year, because you essentially did beat Auburn, and those things happen in games. They shouldn't. We need better refereeing. But what I look at in a head coach like Pittman is watch his players. How hard are they playing? I can tell you something. Arkansas on both sides of the ball, those kids are giving max freaking effort all game. And that's a tribute, sure, to the senior leaders and all, but it's a tribute to that coaching staff too.
Wes, I could not agree more. And that's why, you hear me talking a lot about the Weston Dacus Award out of Searcy, Arkansas, former Arkansas walk-on. These kids will give their last breath for the Razorbacks. And you can tell it with everybody in their fan base, people around the state. Razorback pride is back.
Yeah, there's a lot of excitement right now. You always want more wins. You get greedy as a fan base, but I think for the most part, the fans realized the expectations were low. They were just hoping really to break that 20-game losing streak in the SEC. Not only did they do that, they won 3 SEC games. So anything else was kind of icing on the cake. We like our cake, and we want some more icing. And that was the disappointing thing about Missouri or even LSU. But there have been circumstances in every game. It's almost a season of ifs. If the referee doesn't blow the call against Auburn, if COVID doesn't strike the week of the LSU game, you go back to the Missouri game. Arkansas was without arguably their best defensive player. I mean, he was the best defensive back, Jalen Catalon, in the first half for what we thought was a bogus call against LSU. So he was suspended for the first half. And then he comes in the second half, and man, he wasn't the same. He just, I think, missing that first half just threw him off, and he didn't play that well. And then their best linebacker, probably their best defensive player, Grant Morgan, who leads the SEC in tackles per game, goes out with an injury at the end of the third quarter. And then you saw after he left the game, Arkansas never stopped Missouri again. I think they scored 24 straight points. Maybe it's 27 straight points. And then, of course, Arkansas got a touchdown, but they never stopped Missouri again after Grant Morgan left the game. You know, those injuries just kind of piled on, and that's where you see what Pittman's talking about, the lack of depth. They just don't have the numbers 1 through 85. They've got some good players, but if something happens to one of those good players, they don't have someone to come in and fill his hole like you see at A&M and Georgia and Alabama.
Yeah, good point. And, you know, Grant Morgan, again, a product of Greenwood, Arkansas over near Fort Smith, a football power. But again, he had those, 19 tackles in the Ole Miss game and pick six and all. Great deal. But look, we have run out of time, Wes. And I want to say this. It is awesome having you on our show. I'm looking at it, Crowley's Ridge. Sun's going down, having a Hams beer here with the fire going. Got Small Dog, and we got more Black Labs in this place than any place short of Chris Aiken's kennel up in Jonesboro at the Webfoot Kennels. But look, tell people how they can follow you. You do a great show statewide every day on ESPN 103.7 in Little Rock. So you hear from the Razorback faithful. And I thought you'd win 4 or 5 games this year. And the fact that Arkansas fans are madder than a bunch of wet hens about losses they felt like they should have had, and they rightfully should have, that's the sign that your program's going in a right direction. Wes, thank you again. Tell people how they can follow you.
Yeah, I'm on Twitter. It's Wes_Moore, 2 S's in Wes, 2 O's in Moore. You can listen to us on The Buzz, 1037thebuzz.com. Y'all have a great weekend.
Hey, you do too, Wes. Thank you so much for joining us. Hey, Jimmy Hodge up in Chicago, thanks so much. Doug Dean in Birmingham, Jake Crane in Tupelo, all of our guests, Lauren Smith, University of Georgia broadcast team on his way to Columbia. Godspeed, man. Have a safe trip. Rodney Orr, Tider Insider, Jason Caldwell inside the Auburn Tigers, Jimmy Ott, ESPN 104.5 in Baton Rouge, Michael Jordan of Duncan Williams Investment Banking Firm. Hey, man, this guy's as good as it gets. He is our Sergeant Carter, and Wes Moore over in Little Rock, ESPN 103.7. Our producer, Miss Audrey, wearing a Tennessee hoodie with a picture on the front that says, I love Smokey, and if you don't love Smokey, I don't love you. And Nigel, our webmaster, Nigel Price, as good as it gets. He is the Elvis Presley, the king of websites. Look, we'll be back with you tomorrow morning, bright and early, 8 to 10 a.m. Central, 9 to 11 on the East Coast, east of the Chattahoochee and the Caney Fork River. On the Saturday morning, Sports 56 WHBQ, 96.1 and the new FM 98.5. I'll be calling in from the duck blind. I'm going to have Gordon Ford, Mitch Davis. We got some great guests lined up. Jeff Cardozo of the Florida Gator Network, Jimmy Hodge, Jake Crane, Doug Dean call in. Maury Gaston's going to call in. Maury Gaston gives opinion. He's like having Bill Gertz on your show. He's as good as it gets. But again, to all of our sponsors, thank you. We are here, and we're here more than anything else. We're here to serve and to provide our listeners with the best information. We are truth brokers, not Kool-Aid drinkers. We tell it like it is. Hey, take your kids hunting so you don't have to go hunting for your kids. Don't quit because you're tired. Quit because you're done. Our time is up. We thank you for yours. We're out of here. Hey, Jimmy and Doug, thank y'all. Hey, Doug, man, thanks for being on there. You got great insight. And Jimmy, thank you a million.
Okay.
You there?
Yeah.
Hey, I like what Jimmy was saying. Doug, you heard what Jimmy was saying about the LSU. He goes, man, I can't take anymore. It's brutal. I mean, Doug, what's it like in Birmingham on the local? I'll call Doug back, but Jimmy, that was fun, wasn't it?
Yeah. Jimmy. Man.